when you kill a wife, they have many forms of dealing with dead people, but a wife is tied to a pole and thrown into a river. We were 2 weeks back in Moy for the Bible dedication. One of the most exciting moments for me was as I was sitting with my sister, and she says, "Oh, did you see the lady sitting with the blue cloth on her head?" And I had noticed her sitting there. It was a little unusual, a blue cloth tied on her head. This was a young lady. She'd be early 20s now, late teens, hard to know for sure. She grew up right close to my sister's house in the village where we live too, in that area. And as a young girl, her brother had heard the gospel from our team, and her brother, who was a little older, had shared with her the gospel as he had heard it from the missionaries. And he shared with her the story of Jesus and God and the Old Testament, went through the whole thing with her. She put her faith in Jesus as a very young girl. My sister remembers her shortly after as a young girl coming to my sister with her little net bag, and for a young girl, that'd be her main, only worldly possession. It's a lot of work, and her mom would have prepared that, and she brought it to my sister and said, "Could I trade my bag for a flashlight so I could read God's word at night?" And my sister remembers just giving her a flashlight. "Yeah, please." So she grew up with a love for the word. At a young age, her brother traded her away in a sister swap. So two brothers trade sisters for wives. And her new husband was 3 days hike away over the mountain range, and he didn't know anything of God and the gospel. Sad situation. She was traded away. Wasn't a good click, obviously. He was way older, probably I think a third or fourth wife of this man. One day she saw in his eyes, she said, "I could just see that he was going to kill me." And sure enough, he grabbed his bow and arrow and he shot her through the calf so she couldn't run. And then he shot her through the shoulder. So she shot on the left side and the right leg. And he grabbed a big rock and smashed her knee. And then he grabbed the same rock and he smashed her in the back of the head. She showed us they're still healing. They're still scabbing here and her knee. Sweet girl. So he shot her. He assumed she was dead. He appeared to be dead. Every Moino people, they're used to death and not dead, and they have 3 words, and she was all the way dead in his terminology. So he tied her up, and when you kill a wife, they have many forms of dealing with dead people, but a wife is tied to a pole and thrown into a river, a raging whitewater river. And it was late afternoon, so he tied her up and would have had to have help and carried her down to the river on this pole and threw her in the river. It's a very fast, rapid flowing mountain river. She was in the river all night long, tied to a pole, presumed to be dead. And about crack of dawn, the sun was just coming up. She said all of a sudden she opened her eyes, and before her eyes were even open, her first thought was, "Creator God, you've made me alive." She opened her eyes and she said, "I don't know how I got off that pole. I don't know how I got to shore." But she crawled all the way through the jungle for a long ways to someone's house who saw that she was not going to live. There's nothing they could do for her. So he kind of folded her up and put her in a large net bag and hung it around his head, as they would do, and carried her the 3 days hike to where my sister was and where our clinic is. And she was treated and cared for, and she's doing well. Was she dead? We don't know. She doesn't know. For the moment, that's not important. Was she dead? What she will say is, "The Creator God made me alive." And she's healing. She's got a strong testimony for the Lord. Her husband has asked for her back again, and her response is, "I'm not real interested in marriage." And her brother has already made a statement, "You killed her. She's no longer yours. She's the Creator God's girl now." And she's very happy with that. And she has a very short testimony. She doesn't have a lot of words, but if you asked her testimony, what she would say is, "I just want my life to glorify the Creator God who gave me life."